Well, hey there, y'all. Welcome on back to the Mountain Man. Now, today, obviously, things were a little bit different because y'all can see my face, which almost never happens, but it has to happen today because look at what I just got in the mail. This is Bigfoot Frightening Encounters by some queer named Tom Lyons. He wrote this thing. This is a big old book full of documented Bigfoot sightings. And we're going to be reading some of it today, not all of it, because I'm not that big of a fan of reading. And also, I read like the first report in here, like the first chapter kind of thing. A little bit boring, but we'll skim through it, see where the good parts are, and read a little bit about these Bigfoot frightening encounters, by God. So I didn't get this book for me. I got it for my friend Daniel because it was his birthday just on Sunday that just passed, and I didn't even have anything to give him because I got this book a little too late. Because I was supposed to, I don't know why I ordered it so late. I should have ordered it earlier, but I ended up not having anything to give him on his birthday because it didn't come in on time. It came in, well, just a few hours ago, by God. So, yeah, I thought I'd read it before I send it off to him. I'll drop it off to him later on today. But if you don't know Daniel, he's been on many other videos on the Mountain Man before. Basically any video that has to do with Tim Burton's, because he likes his ice caps. That's for damn sure. Lots of Tim Burton's taste tests he's been on. Rednecks inside of Tim Burton's, and then also our bike ride to Tim Burton's too. He's been on lots of videos, like I said, and lots of shorts too. So I got this book for him because I know he's a big fan of mountain monsters, by God, for sure. Now, I think you might enjoy this book. Now, the first report, it's like broken up into reports, kind of like instead of chapters, which is, I guess, how they do it in this book series. There's a whole series of these books also. The sun's going away now. Look at that. Now it's getting cloudy. It's actually kind of nice. I don't have to squint my eyes so much. No, now it's back. Of course, right when I'll start reading. So the first one I read by some queer named Glenn Barnett. I only read this one so far. I found it a little bit boring, to be honest. There wasn't much really talk about Sasquatch at all until like, I don't know, 8 pages in. I think it was like 10 pages long, the whole report. So we're going to go off into like the halfway point of the book because the first few reports seem really long and drawn out. I want to show you a couple of pictures in the middle of the book here, the middle section here. Reading is not my favorite thing to do. So I won't be reading it all today, and I don't have time, like I said. But I wanted to show y'all just a little bit and read a little bit to y'all. Maybe about 40 pages we'll end up reading maybe today. Now it said on this picture here, there's supposed to be a Sasquatch right there. I don't see one. Y'all see one? Please tell me in the comments, but I don't see it, that's for damn sure. And then right here is like a big old Sasquatch footprint. I definitely see that. Well, I mean, it's a little intriguing. It could be a Sasquatch footprint. Possibly. I didn't read that report, so I don't know what it's talking about. And apparently on these two pictures of these woods, this is also supposed to be Sasquatch images as well, but I don't know. Not seeing them. Y'all tell me what you think. But anyways, I don't want to crease the book. I almost just creased it open, and we don't want to do that. Then again, I don't think Dan will care. He's a hillbilly like me. Anyways, where should we start? I guess we'll start on report number 5, page 62. There's like 11 reports in this whole book. It's like 11 chapters. But the few ones at the end are pretty darn short. They're only like 2 pages. So I think that's better for today's video because I don't want to take too much of y'all's time. And I only want to read the reports I think are going to be the best. Then again, I don't really know. I'll have to ask Dan because he'll read the entire thing. And he'll let me know which reports are the best. So if they're really that good, I'll have to come back and read the other ones I guess that I missed. Starting off though, report number 5. This says, I haven't told many people about my encounter. But it's just one of those things I've never been able to debunk. Oh, I can't see my face. There we go. It took place shortly after school started in 2004, when I was 7 or 8 years old. My friend Travis, his older brother, and I were riding our bikes at the dirt jumps, which still exist to this day. Suddenly it started to storm. They left, but since my house was so close, and for reasons I still don't understand, I hung out by myself. I guess I just wasn't ready to go. Off to the right, I saw this white figure moving slowly through the woods. Oh my goodness, is it the Yeti, by God? It wasn't walking on a path, which I thought was strange. The first thing I noticed about the creature's physical appearance was that its arms stretched down to its waist, and that it didn't seem to have much of a neck. It never saw me, but it walked through the brush and past a tree stand, a big old tree stand. That's always a good place to see Bigfoot, to spot him out there. That was in front of me. I'd say it was about 50 or 60 feet from me, and I can accurately gauge the exact distance because both the tree stand and the jump that I was sitting on top of are still there. Its shoulders came up to the platform of the tree stand, so I know it was taller than 6 feet, but it wasn't gigantic. Once it passed through, I rode my bike back to the house and told my gram about it, but of course she brushed it off and I didn't think much about it anymore. That is, until I was a few years older and saw a show about Bigfoot on TV. I wonder if that was mountain monsters he saw. They're so queer. Since then, I've become pretty educated on the serious side of the Bigfoot community, and I strongly believe that what I saw was a young Bigfoot, or maybe just a shorter one. As for the color of its fur, it seemed really odd to me until I started hearing about other sightings of white Bigfoot across Pennsylvania. So that was submitted by Matt Savino. Matt Safino? I don't know. Matt Savino? I don't know, whatever. Interesting. That was a short one. I thought it was longer than that. So yeah, this queer named Matt out there on the skate park, I guess. Where's a skate park next to a tree stand, next to a Bigfoot infested forest? I have no idea. But apparently that's where he saw Bigfoot at, a white, small Bigfoot. So a little skeptical about that. First of all, the size. The chances of you seeing a Bigfoot are very rare. The chances of you seeing a small baby Bigfoot are like 1,000 times even rarer. And the fact that you saw an albino Sasquatch, I'm not saying those exist, but I'm just saying if it's white, it's probably albino, and that don't really make sense for Pennsylvania. So I don't know. He says he started hearing other sightings of white Bigfoot across Pennsylvania. I know who else lives in Pennsylvania. That old Dusk Man. So I'm wondering maybe if it's just part of his clan, because I actually just finished my video on the Cryptic Case Files video for the Dusk Man, and I just learned all I need to know about him, by God. So it's a little ironic that this Bigfoot sighting actually took place in Pennsylvania too. Alright, so it says, are you enjoying the read? Kinda. I don't want to download volume 2 though. Maybe I'll get it though, if this book is just that good, but so far it seems alright. You know, it's kind of like reading about the encounters that the eyewitnesses for mountain monsters had, so it's kind of cool, I guess, in a way. Anyways, report number 6. In 2013, my family decided to move to the mountains of West Virginia. That's a good place to move. About 4 miles from Plum Orchard Lake, we found our perfect little cabin nestled in the mountains on 10 acres, with a small creek that ran through the property. Behind our property were thousands of acres of state-owned land that were full of rugged beauty. The first few weeks went by without any incidents, and we greatly enjoyed our new life. In that area of the United States, seasons change faster than in our home state of Georgia. We noticed more and more wildlife getting closer to our house and around the creek. One of my friends came up to visit us and fell in love with the property. He enjoyed it so much that we ended up letting him put up a tiny house at the bottom of the property in a clearing with a great view of the creek. That's pretty nice of him. About 50 yards from the main house. He ended up coming to work for me, and we rode there together every morning. About a month after we moved to the property, we came home late one evening, pulled into the driveway, and got out, only to hear the strangest noises coming from the ridge above the house. It sounded like something was pacing the ridge and making a loud blowing noise. Oh, there's an ant going at me. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Don't want to be one of those bullet ants. Oh my God. You know, feels like a bullet, it said. I read about bullet ants before, but we don't want to get bitten by one of those. But I don't think they live in Ontario, so we're good. Back to the reading. I lost my train of thought. Where do we go? We sat and listened for a few minutes. I thought it was strange, but we parted ways and went about our separate evening routines. Oh, nice. It's just the sun's going behind the clouds now. That's nice. Not so hot. Where to next? The next morning, I picked up my friend like usual, but he seemed shaken and extremely exhausted. I asked what was the matter, and he said that tree limbs and stones kept hitting the side of his small house throughout the night. He seemed sincerely horrified. A few days went by, and my wife said she had this uneasy feeling while being outside, almost like she was being watched by something. She also said something was knocking things over in the yard. I began to suspect that maybe a bear was meddling around, since the area had such a high population of them. You never know, I guess. But I feel like people always say, oh, it probably just a bear, then it ends up being a Sasquatch. So I don't know. This is called Bigfoot Frightening Encounters, so I think he ends up being a Sasquatch, probably. But, you know, just my assumption, who knows. That year, we started getting our first snowfall around Halloween. That's pretty early. Something we were not prepared for, being from the south. We spent a lot of the evening after that chopping logs on the very back of the property for firewood. While back there, we noticed what we thought were game trails down behind the house. I'm always losing my spot. Which you could follow all the way to the creek. We thought nothing of it and continued collecting wood. That night, we started hearing something hitting our house. At first, it sounded like small stones, but then transitioned into what sounded like much larger rocks. I called my friend to see if he was messing around, but down the receiver I could hear the same noise of stones hitting the top of his house as well. We decided to see what was going on, and to meet one another on my porch. I had my rifle, and he had his. Both of our pits were with us. We grabbed our flashlights and headed toward the ridge. The dogs seemed extremely anxious. They were acting like something was close, but we couldn't see anything. All we found was a horrible odor and some disturbed stones around the house. Thanksgiving came and went, and Christmas was fast approaching. All the strange activity seemed to die down for a few weeks. That is until my friend got into my work van one morning. Oh, bye. The bee around. And seemed completely freaked out. My God. He said he had spent the entire night with his gun in his lap and his dog growling and watching his front door. He asked if I had heard anything the night before, and I explained that I had slept like a baby. He went on to stress that something was messing with his front door, and he said he was honestly scared to death. That weekend was like any other. We spent much of the time watching movies before heading to bed around 10:30. Suddenly we were awoken at 2 a.m. in the morning by an alarming sound. Boom, boom, boom. It sounded like something was hitting the side of the house with a 2x4. My kids and wife were crying, and they all fled into our bedroom. I called my friend, and he said he could hear the same sound from his place. I could hear his dog snarling in the background. We decided to get the guns and head outside to see what was going on. He ran up to my house, and we set off into the woods. My dog was growling toward the tree line, so we headed in that direction. As we got closer, the dog seemed afraid of something. We kept yelling out, "Who's there?" The dogs then started barking loudly towards the trees next to us, and we shined the lights in that direction. That's when we saw it. I'm over 6'2", and this had to be at least 8 foot or 8. I am over 6'2", and this had to be at least 8'8" or taller. Wow. Its hair was dark and matted, and when my light hit its eyes, they shined red. Sounds like the Cherokee Devil to me. It was only there for a second, but time froze and I absorbed every detail of the moment. It then stepped back into the thicket of woods behind it. The world became alive again, and fear set in. My friend was screaming, "Did you see that? Did you effing see that? What the F?" Okay, I'm saying all those bad words on camera here. What the F was that? I said, "I don't know, man." And the urge to flee from the area quickly set in. We ran back down the property, and something yelled out towards us, a roar unlike anything I'd ever heard before. There was also the sound of pacing on the ridge. We both went into my house, locked the doors, and sat with my family till morning. The next day, my friend decided to move, and my family and I left in the spring, never to look back. Wow. That is scary. From B. Only got initials. We don't know his name. Wow. I didn't think they were gonna move. I thought they were gonna get this creature. Huh. Interesting. Well, anyways, I guess on to the next report. Report number 7. How long is this one? Not too long. We got enough time. All the other ones are short after that, so yeah, we'll have time to read the rest of them. Why not? Only at like the 14-minute mark almost. So let's go with report number 7. In the early summer of 2014, I took a trip to the southeast Oklahoma mountain region with one of my sons and a friend. We had been told of Sasquatch activity in that area and wanted to see it for ourselves. We settled in miles deep past the logging trails and used that first day primarily to scout the area. We ran into a curious fox and a mother bear with 2 cubs that walked past our camp. We thought that if we made some noise, it might make these creatures curious, which might bring them closer in. So we set up some targets and fired off some rounds. Later that night, we heard what we could only describe as cat meows. Since we were in the middle of nothing but sticks, it just seemed too odd. We also thought we heard what we guessed to be rocks hitting small branches. It was as if they had been thrown. That evening and the next morning was all quiet. Either that or we slept so hard that nothing could disturb us. That day, a thunderstorm passed through, and the sound of the echo was amazing as it bounced through the valley. We hiked around it a bit, but we didn't go too far due to the fact that we didn't know the area too well. Late rain swept through all day. After a full day of searching, we hadn't seen anything. We retreated back to our camp, and after supper I retired as the other two hung out by the fire. My friend brought his guitar and chokingly serenaded our hiding guest. I was again soundly asleep, only to be suddenly awoken by my son. He was trying not act too excited, but was frantically exclaiming, "We have eye shine, Dad! Wake up, we have eye shine!" I quickly threw on my boots. What are you talking eye shine? What the hell does that mean? I quickly threw on my boots without bothering to strap them, grabbed my sidearm, and ran to where my compadres were positioned. This is queer, this guy, the way he's talking. We stood at the bottom of the steep, sloping hill, and a light rain began. Approximately 30 yards up the slope, we could see occasional eye shine. I guess it's just shine from an animal's eye, I think they're talking about. I don't know. From behind a tree. We could also just make out what appeared to be a masculine shoulder and arm sticking out from around that same tree. My friend took aim and fired. Just fire at some random thing in the night. I wouldn't do that. Kind of reminds me of the Bear Beast, the old Ames team. In a flash, it looked as if the animal tried to grab the slug in midair. Then it was gone. No sounds could be heard other than the firing of the gun and the light rain. Then, to the left, more eyes shone in the darkness. Only this time they appeared orange, reflective, and far larger. They were almost the size of tennis balls. My son was standing next to me and suddenly yelled, "Watch our six." He had night vision with him, so he was able to keep watch of our sides and back. My friend said he was out of ammo and went back for more while my son continued to watch. What happened next still haunts me to this day. Oh boy. A creature charged us down the hill, but stopped 39 yards away, grabbed a large bush, and shook it wildly. Then it stopped. The bush was 7 or 8 feet tall, and then it stood up behind the bush. I was struck with fear. I could clearly see the shoulders, neck, and head towering above the bushes. I had to remind myself to breathe. Silently, I drew my .40 and fired 3 or 4 times. My son turned around with his night vision and caught a glimpse of the creature running up the mountain. It was moving quicker than he thought possible, due to the light rain and the steepness of the slope. At this time, my friend had returned fully loaded, and we reported what had happened. My son also mentioned that he noticed what appeared to be blood on the foliage. We began to pursue what we assumed could possibly be a dead body, and we were quickly blocked by a cultural coral to our left, which stopped us in our tracks. We decided to stand there and wait, thinking it may not be a good idea to walk up on an injured creature. After several minutes of waiting, we decided to climb the slope, but it was no easy task. We searched as we slowly ascended, but found nothing. We returned to camp for a long sleepless night. I was personally scared out of my wits that the creature would return. The next day, I decided we'd had enough, as I wanted to get my son out of harm's way. Even though he has military experience, I still felt that I needed to do what I could to protect him. I've not shared this with many people aside from close family and friends. Why would I fire on a creature, you ask? Well, it's simple. No specimens, no creature. I believe these creatures are related to the Gigantopithecus. Oh, those are the big giant monkeys like King Louie in the Jungle Book that crossed the Bering Strait. I personally call them wood apes, but without a body, we have no real way to prove their existence. Submitted by Papa John, that old queer pizza maker. Papa John, they close all the Papa Johns around where I live in Canada here. So that kind of sucks, because they make pretty good pizza. Today I had to get Little C's, and it's not as good as Papa John's, I'll tell you that much. Anyways, that was an interesting one. They didn't really describe the creature he saw all that much, but he says he thinks it could possibly be related to Gigantopithecus. So that's kind of interesting. Weird take on it, but I like it. Anyways, report 8. We'll do report 9, 10, 11, then we'll be all done. Because, like I said, the first couple reports, very long, drawn out, and they seem a little boring to me. Anyways, this terrifying and confusing experience happened on a typical summer night at my grandmother's house in Winston, Georgia. So at around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, me and some of my buddies were hanging around outside. To give you a better visual of where the sighting took place, it's important to know that my grandmother's house is surrounded by trees on all sides except for in the driveway. On the left side of the driveway, at the bottom of the hill, there's a ditch that we cut up branches and tree leaves in. During this frightening encounter, we were standing at the top of the hill between the house and the van. We were chilling outside, that's a queer word, next to the van for at least an hour and a half, and during that whole time, I never saw or heard anything go into the ditch. Then all of a sudden, a big, somewhat human bear-like creature crawled out of the ditch and stood up on 2 legs. It bolted down and out of the driveway and headed toward the left side of the road. Startled, I repeatedly yelled, "Hey, who is that?" What are you doing here? I don't know why I made it sound like a guy from Harlem, but whatever. The creature didn't even turn its head or anything. If I had to describe the creature, I would say it was over 7 feet tall and very bulky. From where I stood, it looked as though it had thick, woolly black hair. Hair/fur. Black hair or fur, I don't know. Its neck and shoulders were not at a right angle like a person's, but rather it was almost rounded where the neck and shoulders touched. I started to chase after it as I really wanted to solve the mystery, but then my gut forced me to stop because I had no clue what I was getting myself into. When it ran to the left, I imagined that it probably ran through the woods to the train tracks. I haven't seen it again since then. Ever since, I prefer not to walk alone in that neighborhood at night. I've even brought a trail camera, and I'll be sure to let y'all know if it ever comes back. But I really hope it doesn't. Submitted by Isaac Shackelford. Wow. Well, that was an interesting one. At least he described the creature, unlike the last one. Oh, interesting. It's like a bear-like, human-like creature. That's kind of a weird one, honestly. Crawled out of a ditch, just in a neighborhood? Kind of odd to me. I don't know why I'm thinking of the lizard demon, but he said it reminded him of a bear, so that doesn't really make sense. Anyways, let's move along with report number 9. This is a real short one, so let's see what it has to offer. It says, it was July in Miami County, Ohio. Never heard of Miami County, Ohio. Oh, 1 second, y'all. Alright, sorry, y'all. Had to answer the phone. I didn't have the ringer on, so I'm glad that I saw that. Right up top there on the screen, it said, incoming call from old Daniel. He was calling, letting me know that he's waiting on his book. I said, hold your horses. I got finished reading it. I'm filming a video. He said, what the hell are you doing reading my birthday present? I said, you know I'm the mountain man. You know I can't pass up reading a book about Sasquatch. So here we go with report number 9. It was July in Miami County, Ohio. There was a river that runs past our aquatic center, which is a popular fishing spot for the locals. It was a warm day, so we decided to take a trip to the fishing spot. We were fishing on a trail off the path into the river, and I was about 15 meters away from my friend who was fly fishing. I looked up after catching a whiff of this horrid stench and saw a 7 to 8 foot tall creature with brown shaggy fur stand up and growl. Then I suddenly heard a tree fall behind us. We booked it as fast as possible to the truck. The next day we returned to the area and saw snapped limbs and the fallen tree, but we could tell that it was still green and alive when it fell. We believe that there were more than one of the creatures, 2 to 3 based on how the tree fell. Also, I should mention that there were large paths that had been trampled into the ground that led from deer trails to other parts of the forest, which hadn't been there the day before. Submitted by Noah Barnes. So that was a short one, like I said. But anyways, this next one, report 10. Another short one. But that one wasn't too bad. Report number 9. A nice, short and simple one. They were by an aquatic center or something like that. Saw a Bigfoot, 7 to 8 feet tall. Sounds like any normal Bigfoot, brown shaggy fur, standing up, growling. Sounds like your typical Bigfoot to me. Anyways, report number 10. I grew up in southern tier region of New York, specifically in Allegheny County. That's funny because I just read the Allegheny River in Ohio. That's funny, one of the Ohio rivers. When I was doing the old Duskman episode of Cryptic Case Files. So it says, it is an area of farmland, forest, and is sparsely populated. There exists a local legend of Bigfoot with all the usual hairy woman nomenclature, never heard that word before, attached. The Klipnaki State Forest backed on to our property and featured both CCC planted trees, what the hell does that mean, and natural hardwood trees, making an area that totaled under 2,000 acres. There are natural limestone caves, creeks, dirt roads, winding through the hills, and a large population of deer, game birds, plants, etc. My first experience with the hairy woman occurred, that sounds like the wild woman to me, when I was 5 or 6. While picking wild strawberries with my mother, I had run out in front of her when I heard something heavy jump out of a tree. I froze. Heavy. Slow footsteps could be heard, heading in my direction from approximately 200 yards into the red pine trees. Terrified, I ran back to her, and together we both headed home. In the years since then, I have spent a lot of time hiking and camping in these woods. I would often hear the hairy woman treading lightly through the campsites where my friend and I camped many times. Usually more than one would come by at night. They would whistle quietly to each other as they traveled through. I'm not sure about knocks, but it's possible that I heard them. People in this area would talk about seeing and hearing them while hunting and driving through. Their existence was widely known and accepted. and there was never any negative talk about the hairy woman being dangerous. I remember that everyone just took this animal, not sure if it's an animal or not, if it's a hairy woman, to be part of the woods like all the other animals. The story ends with a night when I was 21 or so, while out cruising around with a friend. We were out near an old gravel pit, which is about a quarter mile from the house I grew up in. It was late, and we were just quietly talking and dozing off when I heard what sounded like some heavy animal walking down one of the sides of the pit. I could hear stones sliding down, and a sound that was the scariest and creepiest noise I've ever heard. It almost sounded demonic. We sped off without looking back. Years later, I wondered whether it could be the same Bigfoot I had heard years earlier. In fact, we were only several hundred yards from where my first experience had taken place. Submitted by Dave Thompson. I wonder if that could be the same Dave from Mountain Monsters, the guy with the great skull wall. You never know. I'm sure there's a lot of Daves out there, though, so probably not. That was an interesting one. I thought it was all about Bigfoot. That was about the hairy woman, though. I never heard of her. Sounds a lot like the Wyatt woman to me. Interesting. Alright, so this next one, this is the last one, y'all. And it goes from page 91 to page 104. So it's a pretty long one. This is going to be the last one, then we'll finish it off, call it a day. Because I got to go get this book to Daniel, like I said. I'll probably go to Tim Burton's or something, get a dip down there, who knows. Anyways, it says, I want to preface this by saying that I am going to summarize a few of my family's encounters with these creatures. As of today, I've documented 61 different incidents. I did not start keeping a journal of these personal accounts until almost 3 years after my first eyewitness encounter. If I had started earlier, the documented incidents would have far surpassed 61. Wow, that's a long time. Initially, what the hell is that saying? Well, heard something over there. Sounded like a Sasquatch to me. No, not really. But anyways, initially, after my first encounter, I was so shell-shocked that I now realize that I had developed PTSD from the event. Post-traumatic stress disorder, that's what that is. I don't know what the hell, how we got that from that, but I don't know, whatever. During a roughly 3-year period after the first encounter, my wife and I had numerous unexplainable things happen to us at our home. However, I did not start to... Oh my gosh, on a bee on my leg. However, I did not start... Alright, so I'm skimming through this now, y'all. It seems kind of boring, talking about his education and whatnot. I don't really care about that. His property sits adjacent to a 1,300-acre wildlife management. This one seems kind of boring. Dogs. Alright. Where's the actual encounter start? Alright, we'll start here. I was sitting on our front porch working on an electrical corn feeder head that had recently been torn up when I heard a rather loud shriek coming from across the mountain on top of the ridge adjacent to our home. Both of my basset hounds heard the shriek and they began to growl deeply. Their fur bristled on end while they looked toward the mountainside. After a few moments of silence, I distinctly heard what sounded like a huge object crashing. Well, seeing things behind me. I think a Sasquatch is watching me or something. But yeah, a huge object crashing through the bush coming off the hill from the ridge toward our house. The sound was loud, but it was also slow and methodical. It was almost as if something the size of an elephant was walking in the brush toward me. The dogs continued to growl and grew more and more unsettled. I stopped what I was doing and started watching the woodline curiously. As the moments passed, the object responsible for the noise continued to get closer to our home. As I walked in a straight line off the ridge, I realized that any moment I would be able to see the culprit responsible for the racket. As long as it continued to walk in my direction, I observed our dogs. They had retreated from our yard and had attempted to hide themselves in a large hole in the hillside that ran alongside our front yard. The hole was there due to me uprooting a tree earlier in the year. Finally, I could make out a large, hairy-covered thing, in quotes, standing on its hind legs, and it stepped out of the wood line and looked straight at me. The creature was approximately 60 yards away from my position and was standing in clear view of me without any obstructions. That past spring, the local power company had contacted a brush cutting company to cut out all the underbrush adjacent to the power lines. Where the hell's Maya? I have my dog Maya out here. I don't know where the hell she's been lately. But I don't hear her, so I don't know. She's out there somewhere. The creature was standing in this clear-cut area. When I first observed the creature, I immediately attempted to process what I was seeing. My first thought was that it was a bear. standing on hind legs. I further convinced myself that it made sense for me to be seeing a bear because I had 2 full trash cans sitting at the base of the hill near the road. This thought was further confirmed when the creature squatted down toward the ground, because I convinced myself that the bear had sat down on its rump. After the creature squatted down, it became completely motionless. It was so motionless that it literally melted into its surroundings. Had I not been looking straight at the creature as it squatted, I most likely would have never seen it in plain view. After the creature sat motionless and observed me for several moments, I became bored with looking at the bear in quotes, and I went back to tinkering with the electronics I was working on. After a few minutes, I noticed movement in my peripheral vision. I looked toward the movement, and I witnessed the creature stand back up. At that moment, I knew that I wasn't looking at an odd-shaped, overgrown, dark brownish black bear. I was looking at what I thought at the time was a monster. There's a lot of quotes in here. My fingers are getting hurt. The monster turned side profile to me while keeping its eyes locked on me the entire time. This is when I really got a good look at the creature, and then I knew without any doubt I was not looking at a monster and not a bear. The creature was between 7 and 8 feet tall, with a thick chest and large, long arms. The creature's waist was thick, and its legs and hips were extremely sturdy. Here's someone over there. And powerful. I could not make out any facial features because of the distance, but I could see the brow ridge and eye sockets, as well as the oddly colored skin that didn't have hair. The monster proceeded to walk from my left to right while maintaining eye contact with me the entire time. It proceeded to walk a parallel line to my right for approximately 150 feet, and it entered a pine thicket across the road to my front yard. The creature stopped as it entered the thicket. It proceeded to make the loudest and most guttural roaring howl I had ever heard, which could never be replicated by a human being. The roar reverberated, never heard that word before, a lot of words I've learned today, throughout my chest, and it literally felt as though it shook my porch. I began to panic, and I imagined that the creature was going to attack our home. Suddenly the creature let out the most ghastly, ungodly moaning howl that could only be dreamt up in someone's worst nightmares. As the creature's howls started to taper off, I could hear a low growl emanating. I've learned all these kind of words today, by God, from it. I could feel the reverberations. Okay, well, I've never heard that word before. Reverberations, am I just saying it wrong? From the growl. And it grew weak to the knees as it sent a chill down my spine. That's what a Sasquatch will do to you. I left the front porch area of our home and proceeded to arm myself. I thought of calling 911, but I realized that they might think I was either intoxicated or just a basket case. Probably, if you're telling me you saw a Sasquatch. Needless to say, I could go on and on about events that happened after this initial incident, but let's just say that I became afraid of going outdoors for quite some time. I'm an avid hunter, and I have been published in a popular hunting magazine for some of my trophy kills, but I don't like that. But I became terrified of the woods after this. For the longest time following this incident, I had managed to block much of it out and forget about it. Gradually, after talking to friends and doing a lot of research, I was able to start regaining some normalcy in my life again. Only after I re-entered the woods and started hunting and fishing again did I fully remember the events that happened during this life-altering encounter. Obviously, I've had many more things happen since then, but this was the first time that I consciously realized what was happening to our family. Finally, I had an explanation for so many strange events that have been happening to us on our home since moving into the area where we still reside. Additionally, I became an instant internet junkie as I tried to find any and all information that I could on the subject of Sasquatch. He needs to watch Mountain Monsters ASAP. The more I discovered, the more I realized I was experiencing the same things that many people elsewhere had reported happening to them too. After my incident, I learned through this guy's using way too many quotes, unofficial investigative work that there had been a multitude of sightings and encounters in the area for years. Some of the local, there's more coming, some of the local names for the beast are the red eye or the booger. And booger man, no, the booger mask, that's what I'm thinking of. Another popular name used by old timers was the devil. Cherokee devil? Supposedly, they even found the nest of one of the devils back in the 60s. The place is still referred to as the Devil's Den. It is a large cave that is in the heart of the wildlife refuge. The Devil's Den is within 2 miles of my current residence. Coincidentally, there's a documented account of a local school bus driver who claims that a creature ran off the hill on 2 legs and jumped from the hillside onto the roof of her bus. It happened while she was parked adjacent to the hillside while she was waiting to pick kids up for school. The driver claims that she heard something run off the hill and she exited the bus to see what the commotion was all about. I thought I heard some commotion over there, by God. Yeah. According to the report, the woman claimed a werewolf, even she's using quotes now, looking creature that was covered in hair and 7 feet or taller ran on 2 legs down the hill and jumped onto her bus as she quickly re-entered it. The driver said she sped away with the monster still on the roof of the bus. What? This is starting to sound like Goosebumps or something crazy like that. But that she was uncertain as to where the creature finally came off the top of the bus. Needless to say, the lady went straight back to the bus garage and promptly reported the incident and then quit her job. The location where the lady had parked happened to be down the hill on an old dirt road just below the Devil's Den. So this is like 2 reports in one, pretty much. Submitted by George and Cassidy Kennedy. Interested in Tom's experience with the Sasquatch species? The popular Living Among Bigfoot series is now available. I guess I've become kind of like a little advertisement for this queer named Tom Lyons. But yeah, this is a pretty fun book. We didn't read it all. I don't really have plans to either. We read half of it, especially because I read the first report too. And then it said, as editor's note, before you go, I'd very much like to say thank you. He's using quotes again, this queer. Thank you for purchasing this book. I'm aware you had an endless variety of Bigfoot-related books to choose from, but you took a chance on my content. Therefore, thanks for reading this one and sticking with it all the way to the last very page. Well, he doesn't know I didn't read it all. At this point, I'd like to ask you for a tiny favor. I don't know how to quote that. He's like, put stars on it. It would mean the world to me if you could leave a review where you purchase this book on Amazon. I guess I will. Your feedback will aid me as I continue to create products that you, as well as others, can enjoy. Well, wasn't my favorite book in the world, but it was kind of fun to read. I kind of like the more like campfire type story, Bigfoot encounters. I don't know, it just feels a little more like spooky, like more mountain monsters kind of thing. This one felt like, I don't know, a lot of people just talking about their life and whatnot, which I don't really care about. I want to know about Sasquatch, especially the first one. The first one was really boring, so I'm glad I didn't bore you guys and read that one on camera. Well, I did, but I didn't bother posting that part onto the video. I talked about mailing list and whatnot. A bunch of queer social media stuff about the editor. I don't really care about you, Tom. And that's all for this book. So anyways, yeah, if y'all want to go check out this book, Bigfoot Frightening Encounters, I can't give a full review on it, but from what I read so far, I give it like a 4.5 out of 10. I know it's not very high, but honestly, I didn't really enjoy it all that much. Some parts were alright. That was kind of fun to read. That was a fun, kind of different type of video to do today. Never really done anything like this before. Definitely a long one. So if y'all actually stayed to the very end of this video, thank you very much. I surely do appreciate it. I'll be surprised if anyone watched it all, but if you did, make sure to let me know in the comments down below, because I'd like to know all about that. And if you enjoyed it, if you'd like to see me read more of this queer Tom Lyons books, probably not his books, but I'll probably read some other Bigfoot books eventually, if I can find them on Amazon and whatnot. But with that, thank y'all for watching, and hope y'all have a great day, and I better go get down to Daniel's house, give him this book, wrap it up first, and give him the other stuff I got him too. I got some Sour Patch Kids candies, and some queer Funko Pop of Spider-Man or something the hell he wanted, I don't know. Anyways, thank y'all for watching. I'll see y'all next time on The Mountain Man. Hoorah! We gonna catch a monsters.